All right. Hey guys. So I've been asked to do some Photoshop tutorials. So I figured I'm in the middle of working on some images here for my buddy Marcus Williams at Intellect Media. This is a shoot we did at Dover Hall up near Richmond for his new marketing material for his new website. So I'm going to work on this image right here. This is the raw image that I started out with. Here you go, I'll let you check it out here. Bring it up big. I'm doing this all real time here for you guys. So this is as shot. This was one of the shots that Marcus picked that he wanted. So you guys can see it here as it was, and then I'll open it up in RAW and show you through the whole process of opening it in RAW, processing the image, and then retouching it and everything. And I haven't done this before, so this isn't like an image that I have started and done already, and now I'm showing you again. So you may see as I work through some real life stuff here, which is kind of how I like to do it. So I take that back. I have processed the RAW file a little bit here. So what I've done is I've adjusted my exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, clarity, vibrance here. Haven't done any lens correction, but I did do a little bit of this radial filter here, which allows me to select this area and then fine-tune just this area with these settings, so it kind of brings them up a little bit. You see how high the exposure is here. Some of the rest of these are a little bit the same, but having this in Photoshop is pretty fantastic. Again, I'm using Bridge in Photoshop. This is processing in Photoshop itself. I don't use Lightroom. I'm kind of old school in that manner, so I apologize if you guys are all about Lightroom and stuff like that. You can kind of disregard this part. You won't see any Lightroom here. So I'm going to go ahead and just open this in Photoshop. There we go. And we'll just kind of get to it right off the bat. So what I'm going to try to do with this is, the idea is to kind of bring down a lot of this brightness around in this area here, and maybe a little bit of this grass. So a lot of it's going to be dodging and burning and stuff like that, and still trying to keep true to itself. So what I'm going to actually do is go back and open this image one more time in Photoshop here in raw processing, and I'm going to bring this exposure down a little bit, just like that. Not getting any more detail over here in the sun, so no matter what I do and bring this slider down as far as I go, this is just going to stay white. There is no more detail here, so I'm going to have to live with that decision. But what I am looking at here is this sky, which is kind of looking artificially blue, and I'm going to change that in a second. But this is coming down, this is all coming down, my bushes and my grass and any other areas here. And the reason I'm bringing this down is I'm going to open this as a separate image and then drag it on top of it and use this image to actually dodge and burn the other one, rather than just dodging and burning the other one. I'm actually physically using the information from this image to bring into the other one. So I'm going to come in here and go and kind of play with these sliders here. So my blue sky is looking a little too blue, so I'm going to bring the saturation down a pinch. That's looking a little better, but I think that it's looking a little dark now. So we just gotta kind of have to play with it a little bit. I think sorry about my notifications here. You can see my email notifications. Hopefully I don't get any crazy messages from anybody while we're doing this. I should probably turn that off. So I'm kind of happy in living in this realm here. So I'm going to go ahead and open that. So there it is. So now you see in Photoshop, I now have two images. So this is the original that I'm going to kind of work off of, and I'm just going to go ahead and take this one using the little pointer move tool here. I'm just grabbing this, clicking it, holding the shift key, and dragging it over, and when I let go, by holding the shift key, it drops that image directly on top of the other one. Otherwise, what happens is you just drag it in, and then it goes like that, and you have to like do one of these numbers and whatever. You know, this just makes it a one-step process. You drag, hold shift, and then let it go, and it's right there. So I probably won't need this image, so I'm going to go ahead and close that, and we'll just work on this. I'm a fan of working in this full screen mode, so I can see my whole image and nothing else. So now I'm going to add a mask to this layer. So this original layer here is the one that I started with. You see it down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this layer because it's always good form to kind of leave this layer alone in case you mess something up or whatever. You always have this down here. So I always start by copying this, and I'll go ahead and label these so that it'll be easier for you guys to follow at home. I'm not like a huge stickler on labeling stuff because I usually don't do a whole lot. If I really get in deep and have layers on top of layers on top of layers, I'll start labeling stuff because down the road I always save my PSD file with all the layers in case I need to change anything. It's super OCD, but it's just the way I roll, and so it's easier to know what's what if you have to like come back to it. So I'll label this as original, and I'll label this one as darker. These two will probably become one at some point. So what I'm going to do, my darker one is on top of my lighter one, and for that reason, I'm going to put a mask on my darker image by clicking the little mask button. There is my mask. So everybody wants to know what masks are and how to use masks. So masks are awesome, and they're fantastic, and they're everyone's best friend in Photoshop. If you don't know masks, hopefully by the end of this tutorial you'll learn something about masking. So right now this mask is white, which means that it's transparent. You can see through it, there's nothing on it, and as I add black to it, you use your brush here, and I'm going to switch these. So now I'm using black. I'm going to also use 100%. So check this out. So as I'm using my brush here, and I apologize, I use keyboard shortcuts for everything, so I want a slightly bigger brush. I'm going to try to do all this stuff longhand, and it's probably going to take a little bit longer. So you see, as I'm painting with black, it's actually covering up that darker layer and showing through the lighter layer below. So you can see I just made that little black line right there. So essentially that is covering this darker layer up and allowing this layer to show through. So as I'm painting black, it will bring this more forward. So I'm going to kind of go through and I'll explain what I'm doing, and I'm going to be using keyboard shortcuts to do this, but essentially all I'm going to be doing from here on out is changing the brush size and changing the hardness of the brush. So probably using a more soft brush for this and a bit of a larger brush to kind of start with. And what I'm going to do is kind of bring back some of the detail in these bushes here, and you gotta just kind of let me go. A lot of what I do is stuff will look uglier before it looks better, so bear with me here. So I'm just bringing back some of the detail in some of these darker spots, and I'm just kind of hitting them up as I want to or need to. And then I'm going to kind of leave some of that alone. And this is all with 100% brush opacity. Right now I'm just bringing back all that detail, but I'm leaving this alone. I'm leaving some of this stuff alone because I want that to be darker, and I'm lightening this, but eventually I'm going to darken it back down so to not make it like completely black. I'm bringing the detail back now. So bringing a super soft big brush in here. I'm changing the opacity to 50%, and I'm going to start blending down here by this grass, because what's going to happen is as you're blending and stuff, you get this like weird line in between here, and you'll see like it's like lighter right here or darker right here, and that's like a telltale sign of bad Photoshop. You can kind of see it right here. See how this is like darker and then it's lighter, and you can see the detail and then not. This is all going to be blended in, because if you left that like that and I saw that, I would totally know that you didn't blend this correctly. So I'm going through down here with a big old brush, and I'm kind of blending on one side and blending on the other, and I'm going to do the same thing up here with 50%, and kind of going on one side of the bushes and then the other side, and same thing down here of the shadow of the bushes. I'll blend on one side and kind of go over, and you know, it's kind of like a to taste and by eye kind of thing. And the cool thing with this is also understanding how certain aspects of what a horizon is supposed to look like. So a horizon is supposed to be lighter, you know, during the day, down towards the horizon. It's whiter, and as it goes up, you get a darker blue. So knowing that, I can kind of play into that and kind of lighten this a little bit, because naturally your eye is used to seeing it be lighter here and then fade up. So you kind of gave it, you saw I kind of gave it one good brush stroke across. That's to kind of bake that a little bit. So knowing things about geography and astronomy and astrology and I don't know, biology, knowing how a body is supposed to look when you're morphing their bodies and stuff like that, and liquefying people and whatever. All that kind of stuff comes into play when you're photoshopping, and knowing what's supposed to look right, it gives you an advantage over like faking stuff. So I'm pretty satisfied with that. So what I'm going to do is, so if you hit the little backslash button on your keyboard, this is what my mask looks like in red. So this is showing you on here what's being covered up. All that red stuff is what is being covered up, and what is being shown through below. So that's just to show you what I've been doing. So now I'm going to go up here, and I'm actually going to blur my mask. So it's important to see that your mask is still selected. You see these little white corners on it. If it's not, when you select the image, the little square box is on here. So you want to make sure that it's on your mask. And what I'm going to do is come up here and blur that mask, which is going to help it blend even more. And there's different levels of blending that you can do by adding the Gaussian blur to it, or Gaussian, or whatever you call it. I call it Gaussian blur, whatever. Call it whatever you want. If you say it, it's close enough to recognize what someone else is talking about. That's what I say. So I don't know how you say it. You probably Google it online somewhere and find out. But for this, I don't really care. So, you know, for more fine-tune, you want to blur less. But for bigger, larger areas like this, I stick to about 150 pixels to like 200. Sometimes I go way over that if it's a very general idea. For this, I think, you know, 194.2 is close enough to 200. So I'm going to hit OK. And that looks pretty good. So here you go. That's the original image. That's taking away the darker part, and here's adding the darker part back in. So it darkens it a little bit more, and the idea is we're bringing the focus to them in this grand scheme of things. You have this crazy stair over here, and all of this, and all of this, and roof, and building, and bushes. You really got to take your eye away from this massive piece and bring it right there. So that's what we're going to be kind of working towards in here. All right. So next step. What I'm going to do is I'm satisfied with the way this looks, so I'm going to merge these two layers together. So you select both of them, you can come up here, and you can merge the layers together right here in layer, merge layers. If you need anything to do with layers, chances are it's in your layer menu here, merge layers. So what that does is that just puts both of them together, and now you have both of those as one. Your mask is then gone. Some people, you know, if you're really new at it and you don't want to merge those layers together, you can just keep it. Sometimes it gets trickier, but it's like once you're done, I just kind of merge them on down and then kind of move on with my life. So what I'm going to do next is get rid of these little sun flare guys here. What I'm going to use is my patch tool. And that's it right there. I mean, you could do, there's a million ways to do this, but that's the quickest way. You could do select layer content, blah, blah, blah. Would probably do the same thing, but patch tool, one and done. I'm going to get rid of this pipe down here. Gone. Let's see what else we're going to do. I don't see really anything else sticking up out of the ground or anything like that. So I have a couple actions that I've made. I'll do a separate tutorial with these actions, but I'll just show you what I'm doing, and it's pretty simple. Soft light, most people use a soft light layer, just adds a little pop and contrast. And then what I'm going to do is add in some vignetting. I have this one. It's called Auto Vignette 600. What it does is it it makes its own selection and then feathers it by 600 pixels. So it gives me this huge gradient of vignetting. So I have different levels, 6, 4, 250, and 150 here that I've created. And then I have custom vignettes where I can actually make the selection wherever I want, and then it will add it in there. This one basically is like a select all and then decreases by a certain amount of pixels and then feathers that to make the vignette. Again, I'm not going to get into that here. So I'm just going to hit play on that. It's going to play, and then it's going to add my vignette. And you see it's pretty dark up here. It's starting to do some weird stuff over here too. So sometimes what you have to do with vignettes when it's like that is kind of even them out and bring them back to reality here. So what I'm going to do is take this vignette and I'm going to get rid of some of it. So all it is a mask layer on a curves adjustment layer. That's all it is, and then it's set to luminosity. And then I bring this down, so I can actually change this however I want, make it more or less intense. That's kind of how my masks work. That's how my dodging and burning layers work. That's how my vignettes work. It's all the same. It's all the same thing. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm actually going to get rid of my mask. So I'm using black on 100%, and I'm coming in here, and I'm getting rid of it because you can really tell that that's been vignetted. So we're going to come all up in here, boom. And what you want to do is, like, you know, I'm not going all the way over here because it doesn't really matter. That's now black, and I'm leaving the vignette kind of on this all the way over to here because, again, it's drawing your eye back this way. You know, that's kind of the idea. Is this is still pretty dark up here, but you don't want to make it so dark that it's like, dude, you vignetted the crap out of that. So I'm going to check this again. That looks pretty darn good. We can even come down a little bit here. That doesn't look bad. So coming in. And you just want to make sure that you don't leave any weird lines when you're doing masking, because if you do, sometimes when you go to print, you can see like a weird line and you don't know what it is. Chances are it might be from your mask, and you masked over something or missed something in a dodging and burning process and didn't blend it correctly, and it's left there. I don't know what this is. A little shiny something or other. It's killing me though. Alright, so that's looking a little better. So still, I want to bring this down just a little bit more and bring them back to a little bit brighterness. over here. It's a word. It's definitely a word, brighterness. So my burn layer, again, is just a curves adjustment layer set to luminosity. And then I have this brought down. My dodge layer is the same exact thing, except I bring the curve up to lighten it. Same exact thing. None of this stuff is any secret. I found it on Google. I used to do it differently. You can also do this by setting the adjustment layer to multiply, and it'll make it darker. I found that luminosity doesn't change much in terms of the color. I found with multiply, it would do strange things to the saturation of color, and it would sometimes make colors more saturated than was needed. So the luminosity doesn't change the saturation at all. It just changes the actual lightness or darkness of the pixels. So again, make sure you're on your burn layer here on the mask. We're going to go back to the brush. We're going to use white because, again, this mask is now black, which means that nothing shows through. So if you want to see what the burn layer is, there it is. So that's what it looks like if you're just showing through. See how it's white? It's showing all the dark burningness through, and then you cover it up with black. Show through with white, cover it up with black. Simple as that. Simple and as hard as that. Because it's very difficult until you get used to it. So what I want to do is I want to bring that black through, that darkness through. So I'm going to paint on this dark with white. So I have my brush, I have my white, and I'm set to 100% here. And I think what I'm going to do is actually start with 50%. And I'm just going to come up here to this bright building, and you see it's very subtle, and you see it is kind of making a weird halo, and we will definitely go back and fix that. But again, sometimes you got to make things worse before you make them better. That's just my opinion. But it's all in those details. Like if you left that like that, and you posted it somewhere online, and I saw it, I'd be like, dude, you gotta clean that up, bro. You know, we're gonna kind of bring some of this stuff back down. Little angel statue here, bringing it on down. This roof, very bright. So again, there's our mask of what I just painted on there. So it's kind of the opposite of what it was before. Now you're seeing through all the red and seeing through the mask of what I just made darker by burning that in using this layer mask here. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to go ahead and blur that. This time probably not as much. It's a little bit finer of an adjustment. So we're just going to go with 100. But still you can see like a little bit of weird vignetting here. So I don't like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in tight, real tight here, with a finer tip brush, a harder brush. So it's all the way as hard as it can go right here, and I'm going to bring it back to not as hard. So we're going to bring it on back. And then what I'm going to do is 100% with black, because I'm taking this now away. So you see how much that was coming into my image here? It wasn't like super noticeable, but at the same time, once you start taking that away, it's very noticeable. So you come in here, and the closer in you get, the smaller the brush you're going to need. I am doing this by hand. Maybe I'm just a glutton for punishment, but you could probably come in with a lasso tool or something and make a selection and do it that way. But whatever, this is probably just as quick. And I'm using a Wacom tab here with a pen, so it's making my life pretty easy. But what you want to do is, when you're starting in here, you want to work your way out like this. And this is where you get like, if you like start taking this away and you're like junky about it, like that, then you get like all these weird lines. That's what I'm talking about. You need to make sure you get rid of all that stuff, because that's what happens later in your print process. You go back to print and you're like, what is this weird spot right here? Like, there's a spot in my print. I don't know what that is. It's probably because you did a crappy job on your masking. This is also pretty easy because you have this like solid black line here, so you don't have to be super exact, because when you come in, you see my brush is going a little bit over that line. It doesn't matter because that line is black, so it's kind of like a nice little buffer zone for when you're blending this stuff in. If that was like a person's face or something that was a much harder line, you would have to get that so much more exact, and this would take so much more time. That, again, will be another tutorial on how to cut people out. It'll be like super boring too, because I'll just sit here the entire time and do like stuff like this, and you'll be like, dude, it's so boring. I can't watch this. Alright, I think I got it all. So I basically just did from here all the way around, all the way up there, boop-a-da-boo. Here's my mask again. You can see it all. I actually think I want to come in now. Now that I see how far this is blended in, I want to come in, and I'm actually going to do this from here, and I'm going to get rid of some of this stuff. You know, if I was smart, I probably would have just started with that, but I'm not that smart, so. Plus, this is for tutorial purposes. And if Marcus is watching, this is for you, buddy. I'll send you these images when I'm done making tutorials for people. Masking is definitely one of those things, though, that it's tough to kind of get your head around it, you know, because it's a digital world, but it's kind of the same as, I'm going to say, screen printing. I took a screen printing class in high school, and that might date my age a little bit. I'm not that old, but might date me just a little bit. But at the same time, it's kind of the same process of screen printing or stenciling or anything like that. So if you're a stenciler and you like stenciling, you'll love masking, because it's kind of like you're making your own stencil. See, I just messed this all up, so I'm going to go back. What just happened there was that the mask was blended, so this isn't 100% here. So when you start painting over it like this, you see how that is? I don't want to do that. I'm only trying to darken the parts that I'm doing now, which is opposite because I'm actually lightening them. So bringing them to light. I'm painting over it with white, but I'm making it darker because the mask I'm using is darkening things. If that doesn't make your mind hurt, then I don't know what does. But it makes sense the more you do it, and hopefully the more I do more of these tutorials, the more you'll get it. I should probably start with a less advanced Photoshop tutorial, but you know what, man, you gotta start somewhere, and somebody will get something out of this, I hope. Coming in hot. Alright, here we go. And the more you do this, I'm kind of just breezing right through it. Like you'll learn stuff like this where you go over an edge, and using keyboard shortcuts, I'm hitting X toggles your black and white here, just hitting X, boom, 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 boom. So what you can do is you're just like rolling through, and you like go over like that, and then you just come back with black, you hit X, you come back with white, and you're back in the game, coming in here, dodging, burning, doing all kinds of stuff. Super cool, man. See, and then you go over like that, and then you just come back and cover it up. If you watch that black and white paint over there, it's just toggling back and forth, like that, and then boom. So now Another thing that I do is I kind of work around the lines, and then you can come in with a bigger, fatter brush and just kind of get rid of all this. So using the white brush, 100%, getting rid of it all. Just bringing all that, basically dodging, burning this entire screen and porch thingy here. And then what I'm going to do, you gotta kind of have to go back and make sure you didn't miss any little spots. That's pretty good. So that's not bad, right? Was that horrible? I don't know. Probably was to somebody. So then the cool thing with this is you have this burn layer. So since it's an adjustment layer, you can totally come in and bring this down a little bit more. And it works just like an adjustment layer. So you can fine tune that however you want, which is kind of fantastic, right? So at any given point in the process, you can bring that down, and it's just adjusting that part. So that's pretty awesome, having everything on an adjustment layer. So when you're doing whatever you're doing, you can do it on a levels layer and do the same thing. You can do it on a curves layer and do the same thing. You can do it on a hue and saturation layer and change the colors of certain things or whatever you want. So I know this is looking pretty good. We're just going to keep on going. The reason I just moved these two layers, because you want this soft light layer over everything you do, because otherwise it does change the effect. It's going to change just a touch, You want your soft light layer on the top. Same with your vignette layer. You want that over top of everything else. The order of your layers is very important, because if you put this underneath this layer, it's going to all go away because this is not transparent. So we're going to put that over top of this layer, and then this is over top of that layer, because whatever is on top, it will apply to everything underneath of it. Especially that goes true with these somewhat transparent layers that need to apply to certain things. Like this layer is not transparent at all, so nothing is getting through. If you put anything underneath of this, you will not see it, because there's nothing allowing anything to go through that. It's like a wall of this image. Nothing's getting through. Alright, so just like I burned that in, I have the same thing, but in a dodge layer. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come in tight here on my couple. Just noticing how like unsharp they are. That's fantastic. It's like opening your door and you just forgot to like do your laundry. You're like, oh shit, sorry, I forgot to do my laundry. I have dirty laundry everywhere. So what I'm going to do is just brighten just them, just a little bit. Bring the dress in a little bit. I mean, the good thing with a wedding dress is that it's white. So I mean, whenever you want a focal point, you have a white dress. So the whiter you can make it without blowing it out completely and making it look stupid, the better off you're going to be. So again, I'm just using the brush over top of her dress here, and now she's really standing out right there as if I artificially lit them. And I think that we're getting somewhere here. One of the things I don't like about using that radial filter in RAW is that it creates a very general area. So sometimes, and I've seen it in work that I do, you can see that circle of where it's not exact. So this way makes it more exact, but you can still kind of see like around the rocks here, it still kind of looks like this like weird artificial vignette that's happening, and it's weird, and I don't like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put its very own dodge layer here, and I'm actually going to fix, like I could have just gone back and not did it when I opened it, which probably would have been the smart thing, but again, hindsight's always 20/20, and I'm doing this live, so to go back and then take all this stuff that I just did and bring it back, all these layers would copy, but like all that stuff that I did at the beginning where I didn't copy that layer, or I like flattened this layer to it, now I can't go back. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to burn that back in just around here to kind of make it look a little bit more natural. And then I'm going to feather that in with the Gaussian, whatever you say, blur, however you say it. Come on, Photoshop, don't be slow. So I'm just kind of like eyeballing it until I like it. It doesn't look bad. Okay, and then to make sure that I don't get any of that darkness where I don't like it, I'm using the black brush on 100% on that layer. I'm just going to bring it back to reality here. That looks way better. It doesn't look like there's like a fake vignette thing around them. It looks a little more natural to me. But you can kind of see, you know, now that all this is dark, you know, aside from this, I think that seeing the subject matter, you see this, and doing these types of environmental portraits where you have like this whole scene of stuff, you know, you're always going to have these elements, and that's important because you want the eye to kind of wander around and kind of dance and play. You know, if this was darker and not there, you might just say this is all weird, but I feel like this kind of balances out and it kind of creates this like V of interest, and it almost kind of like points you here. Boom, boom. I don't know. That's just me. Maybe it's just because I'm staring at it, but something that you can do is just like look at it from here, and it's still, you know, this is pretty bright, but actually, you know what? Let's whatever. For S and Gs, let's see what happens. I'm going to do a content aware on the sun. Let's see what happens. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Let's see. Ba-ba-da-ba. It's not that bad. So let's see here. Let's see if we can't blend this in using the patch tool. Making the sun disappear with Photoshop. Doesn't look that bad, actually. Glad I kind of did that. It's looking a little bit better. What do you think? I don't know. You guys can't talk to me. I'm talking to you. Alright. So I'm going to leave it like that after removing the sun. I think I'm good with this image as it is. One of the things I like to do sometimes is like group all these layers. So if you hold down the shift and you have this layer to this layer, you can select all of those. So that's like you select this one, hold down shift, you can go there, and then you select all of them. And to group, you do Command on a Mac G, and it groups them all into this nice little folder so that they're all in here. Yes, it's so pretty. It's so nice and neat when you like open a file and that's all you see. You're like, oh, that's so pretty. So pretty and nice and neat and organized, and everything's like in one little folder. And then the other cool thing you can do is you can shut them all off at once. And so it's like you get a before and after, so you can really see, like, do I really like all the work that I just spent doing? What do you think? I do. I dig it. That's like my style. Someone told me recently that they saw like a picture from this shoot, and they were like, it's very Mike Dragon. And I was like, well, I'm just going to take that as a compliment because I don't know how else to take it. If you're being a jerk, I don't care because I'm just going to take it as a compliment. But they weren't being jerks about it because I asked them about it. But so that's that. I'm going to save this. I'm going to close this. I'm going to send it over to Marcus, and hopefully he likes it as much as I did. I'm going to be doing some more of these pretty soon, so check it out and let me know what you guys think. Thanks. See ya.